Tonight for dinner, we are having a slow cooker chicken and potatoes. Today was hot all day and I just did not feel like standing over a hot stove in this ridiculous weather that we're having. So I thought it was time to pull out my slow cooker again and make some chicken and potatoes. This came together so easily. It took, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes of prep. And then all I had to do in the middle of the cooking process was throw in a can of green beans and dinner is done. It is so easy, it is so delicious, and it's so comforting. This is the kind of food that I plan on having throughout this summer and fall. So if you guys want to see more stuff like this, then please like and subscribe to these videos. We're going to start by just getting some of our vegetables ready to go in the slow cooker. I'm going to start just by peeling some carrots. And you can definitely use baby carrots for this. I just don't have any. I tend to keep the full-size carrots in my fridge. So I'm just going to peel and rinse these, and then I'll kind of chop them up into smaller pieces and put them in. My carrots are peeled and rinsed. I'm just going to chop off the top and bottom of all of them. And I'm going to cut them up into some pretty small sizes, maybe about 1 inch long. And then as I get into the thicker end of the carrot, I'm just going to cut it in half long ways. I don't want anything too thick going in. I also don't want anything too thin going in. Just about the same kind of size. And since these are cooking really slowly, they'll all kind of cook through, so you totally don't have to get these all perfect. These really thin pieces I actually like to save for my dog because he really likes carrot, so I'm going to just set that aside for him. And if you're using baby carrots again, you probably don't even have to cut them. You can cut them in half or on a bias if that's something that you want to do, but generally for baby carrots I don't do a whole lot. And then I've also got some yellow potatoes here. I'm going to do basically the exact same thing for these. I've already washed them. And I'm just going to cut them into some decent size chunks. Nothing too big, nothing too small. All right, all of my veggies that are going in now are in. And you know what, I'm going to bring this back. All of my veggies that are going in now are in, and now we're just going to trim up and put in our chicken breast. If you've got a lot of fat on the chicken breast, you can generally keep that, and chicken thighs also work really well in a slow cooker because of that. But if you've got any kind of funny looking pieces that you just don't want to keep in there, just trim them up and take them out. And then this, I'm actually just going to lay this right on top of the carrots and potatoes, and I kind of want to surround the chicken with these. I really want to make sure that everything is about the same height because we're going to fill this up with chicken broth and some seasoning in a little bit. And the rest of this chicken, as long as there are no bone pieces, I'm just going to chop this up really rough and throw it in the toaster oven for my dog. For the liquid that's going in the slow cooker, I'm going to be doing some chicken broth, and I'm actually just using this chicken bouillon. And then anytime I use the chicken bouillon, I really like to add in some of this garlic base as well. I just really like the garlic flavor that comes from this a little bit more than regular garlic powder. That is about 2 cups of liquid worth of bouillon. And then I'm also going to add in some of this Olive Garden Italian seasoning. I really like to use this Olive Garden Italian dressing for just kind of like marinating my chicken in and then cooking in it. It always ends up so good. And this already has so many flavors in it that I know are going to work with these foods, so that's what we're going with. All right, I'm just going to add some water into this, and then this will go straight into the slow cooker. I also want to add some onion powder into this, not too much, maybe about a teaspoon or so. But I've got a lot of the garlic, I've got a lot of flavors coming from the Italian dressing. And then one last thing I wanted to add into here was some black pepper. Same thing, maybe about a teaspoon or so. And there's plenty of salt in these two bouillons and in the dressing, so I'm not going to add any more salt to the slow cooker. I'm just going to pour this right on top of everything. And it looks like my 2 cups of liquid was a tiny bit too much. I'm just going to add a touch more of this dressing just on top of the chicken. And then one last thing that I really like to add is some Italian herbs. I use these lightly dried Italian herbs from my local grocery store, but if you have something fresh and you want to use that, or even just dried Italian seasoning, I'm sure would work just fine in here. And that's it. So I've got 1 chicken breast, a few potatoes, and a couple of carrots. I am going to cook this on high for probably about 3 hours. I'm going to come back and check it in 2 hours because we're going to add some green beans in near the end. So this has been cooking for quite a few hours now. Normally I would say that the chicken should be about done in 3 to 4 hours, but I think we're creeping up on that now. This crock pot is super, super old and probably is behaving like it's on low instead of on high, but that's okay. I am just going to add in my green beans now. I do think it'll be done in about 45 minutes to an hour, so I'm just going to drain these. So if you're cooking yours on low, just give yourself the extra time. If you're cooking yours on high, just make sure your crock pot still works like it should. I'm just going to add these green beans right on top. And these are the French style sliced green beans. You can use cut green beans, you can use the French style, use whatever type of green beans you want. This is just what I had in the pantry. I'm going to cover this back up, and I think everything will come together really nicely in about an hour. So my slow cooker's been going for about 1 more hour, and everything is starting to come together really, really nicely. I'm going to take this chicken out so I can get that chopped up. But before I do that, I really want to start to thicken the gravy in here because I like to have a little bit of gravy over everything. I've just got a cornstarch slurry. It's about maybe 2 teaspoons of cornstarch and just enough water to make it a liquid. And then I like to temper that with some of the liquid from the slow cooker. And then I'm just going to pour this right back in. But when I do that, I want to get it mixed pretty quickly, because I don't want to have any clumps from the cornstarch at all. And then I'm just going to let that sit while I chop up my chicken. And for anybody who's not sure, when you use a cornstarch slurry, it's really important you have to let it heat back up. The heat is what kind of activates the cornstarch. So if you're using a cornstarch slurry on the stove, once you've mixed it in, bring the temperature back up, let it come back up to a little bit of a simmer, because that's when it will start to thicken. If you just sit there and you just keep adding cornstarch and keep adding cornstarch, eventually it will become way too thick. And my chicken is super tender. This actually just kind of fell apart really, really nicely. I'm going to go ahead and get my bowls ready. All right, and this has already thickened up really, really nicely. I'm going to go ahead and just start loading up my bowls. All right, super easy. I didn't have to heat my kitchen up. It was 90 something degrees today, so the slow cooker kind of was a nice change of pace. But this smells absolutely wonderful. My gravy is nice and thick. My potatoes are soft. My carrots are tender. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. Cheers. The potatoes are so buttery smooth. I absolutely love slow cooking yellow potatoes because they just always have the creamiest texture. And that Italian dressing is coming in really, really nicely. I'm really, really happy with that. The chicken is tender and it's not too dry, which I'm happy about. The green beans are really, really nice. I really like these French style green beans though, because I just kind of like them. They're tender and they cook so quickly. Well, this is fantastic. I'm going to go enjoy my dinner, and I really hope you guys give this one a shot.